Wednesday, October the 16th, 2024. Good morning. Welcome to your perfect day starter, the morning brief. I'm Kayode Kikiolu, and guess who we have here?
Well, I'm going to start this morning by saying that empathy is how kind hearts breathe, and compassion is the way to implementing the empathy. So whatever you can do, to show that you're a compassionate person this morning, please go right ahead. If it's selling the exact measure of 10 liters of petrol instead of 7, please go ahead and do that. If it's to provide gas to the grid, if you're the engineer that it's at that particular station that will prevent the grid from collapsing, please go right ahead and be a patriotic Nigeria and do your job. If you're to sell, tomatoes, 1,500 naira, instead of doing 1,300 naira and, cut shorting someone else, please go ahead and show compassion. It's a very difficult time at this time of our nation, but it's a time where we must be compassionate towards one another. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka. And of course, Kayode is a very compassionate colleague.
This is officially Compassion Wednesday. We had a conversation just before we came on the show about compassion, so I see where this is coming from. In the spirit of being compassionate, Bukola, I have a gift for you, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I have a gift for you. It's 70 days to Christmas. That's my gift for you. Just sort of.
Oh, you have a gift that you're about to unravel sometime next week.
That's another one, right?
That's another one. Okay, go right ahead and rub it in.
But hey, you should thank me, right? Because I'm giving you a light at the end of it. I was going to say toilet, but tunnel. And we really need that, right? People need something to look forward to, and I think Christmas offers that. So I'm counting down to Christmas officially. 70 days and counting down. Hey, don't worry about Christmas. I tell you that Christmas will come. We'll have a great time from all of us here. We'll ensure that we'll do our very best. But let's come back to today, Bukola, and it's about the power situation. So yeah, we have to talk about these things because this is what we face. And we had that conversation yesterday, and we've talked about how Nigerians seem to adjust to everything. I think it's a human trait, actually. We learn how to adapt easily. So for petrol, we adapted, or we're trying to adapt to CNG or walking, or just basically finding our way around. Tomatoes, we adapted cucumber and all of that. Eggs, people are adapting, they're using garden eggs. So with the power situation now, you wonder, what will people adapt to? Because they've actually adapted, to this decades ago, but it looked like things were getting better, and all of a sudden it just tanked. And TCN has put out a statement, Bukola. Reading through that statement, which was put up about 10 hours ago, it doesn't quite give you clarity. It just tells us maybe what we know mostly. There you go. That yes, they acknowledge that the power grid collapsed, which a lot of people had known already, saying that on 14th of October, that's Monday, at about 6:48 p.m., the grid went down, and efforts have been on to, get the grid back up.
Well, Kayode, I couldn't help but chuckle at the garden egg replacement for eggs.
Did you see that picture?
Well, I didn't see it.
I'll send it to you.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. But let's go back to the TCN statement, right? So it states here that the slight setback notwithstanding, TCN continued with the grid recovery process, which has reached an advanced stage, ensuring bulk power availability to about 90% of its substations nationwide. Supply has now been restored to the Abuja axis and other major distribution load centers nationwide. So from this statement, we can safely conclude that power supply would improve from about today to other parts of the country. But really, it goes without saying that there are some people that have been put in charge of certain stations at the Transmission Company of Nigeria. So people should take responsibility. They should be accountable, to what exactly they have been, put in charge of. Yeah. And if, someone drops the ball, it behoves of the regulatory authority or the relevant ministry to wield the big stick, because following from our conversation yesterday, I couldn't quite accept the explanation that, resources will never be enough. I mean, there's a 43% increase in the amount allocated to the Power Ministry for 2024, and just about 4% goes to personnel management. So there is a good amount of funds that has been allocated to infrastructure. It can go so far, to maintenance of what we have, at least to prevent grid collapses, if we're not branching out to supplying power, through other alternatives. So it's been how many decades? And in 2024, as a 64-year-old nation, Nigeria is still talking about grid collapses. It is totally unacceptable, and whatever explanation is provided is certainly not plausible. Coyote.
Well, you can say that again, Bukola. And what this statement by TCN does not address is what caused this partial disturbance. That's the term used here. So they don't use grid collapse. That's the general term used. They say partial disturbance. What caused it? Is it vandalism? Is it as a result of load rejection? Is it infrastructure issues? You need to be clear on this. Don't just give us partial disturbance. Okay, what does that mean? Secondly, hey, a lot of people have not gotten their power restored. Okay, so this statement maybe talks about some other people. By the way, if you're one of those, let us know, #CTV Morning Brief, because there are lots of people and they've been sending us feedback saying that they have not gotten their power restored. So this is a major national issue, and we need to ensure that the right thing is done. But TCN says they're trying to restore it and will stay on this. But what else do we have for you on the show this morning? Well, let's unpack for you. It's something we all love, whether you admit it or not. And it's definitely worth celebrating. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about food. Well, the good news is that today is the World Food Day. So we're joining in the commemoration of that very special day. I know people hardly admit that they love food. Some people do. Some other people don't. But today we're all telling you, let us have this conversation, because food is said to be a human right and no one should be denied. So we zoom in on Nigeria's performance in upholding the right to food.
Well, a lot to unpack there. From there, we move to another, equally interesting conversation this morning. Amid the challenging economic situation, Nigerian workers are expected somehow to be productive to keep the economy afloat. So what options are available to personnel managers and government to keep the workforce motivated amid diminishing income and, lack of increase, both in the informal and formal sectors? Very important conversation. If you are a worker, even if you are an employer of labor, you should join in on the conversation this morning.
Oh, yes. And that's not all. This man has made a name for himself, shooting some of the biggest music videos out of Africa. But now he's taking on the big screens with his very first streaming project. Clarence joins us on the show to talk about the past, the present, and the future for him and the industry at large, and of course his love for horror movies, or horror films at large. That's something we'll dive into.
Well, an interesting mind. I'd like to explore what is responsible for that, amongst every other thing, that comes with the movie making and music production package.
Oh, yes. So be a part of the show. #CTV Morning Brief, as we've said. Tell us about the electricity situation in your area. Is the TCN statement reflective of what you're experiencing right now? Has power been restored? If your bank is also acting up, I think this past few weeks we've seen banks really providing very poor services as a result of the system maintenance and all of that. So people don't have access to their monies. People who have saved the money, and they naturally should get the money.
I think the explanation provided was a planned transition to another type of service provision. But it still doesn't, clarify what exactly happened, and it went on for too long. So we hope for better service in the next coming days.
Absolutely. So keep your messages coming in. #CTV Morning Brief. We'll get into all of the trends at about 10, 15 minutes plus. But what we're starting off with is the top stories, the biggest stories making the rounds this morning, Wednesday, October the 16th. What are they? Well, stay with us right here on the Morning Brief and you'll find out. Top stories on the brief this morning. We begin with the power situation. The Transmission Company of Nigeria says the restoration of the power grid is ongoing and almost completed. The Public Affairs General Manager of TCN, Ndidimba, in a statement yesterday said although the recovery of the grid commenced immediately, it encountered another challenge that caused a slight setback in the recovery process. Meanwhile, Nigerians have been expressing their frustration after the collapse of the national grid that has caused power outage across the country. Take the northwest Nigeria, for example, where the collapse of the grid negatively affected business operations. As all the franchise states under the Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company, Kaduna, Kebbi, Zamfara, and Sokoto, were thrown into total darkness. Residents are calling for sustainable solutions to address the country's energy challenges. Now to the political challenges. Former military head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, is urging the political class to be more concerned about the peace and the good of the people. He stated this during a media parley as part of activities to mark his 90th birthday in Abuja. General Gowon expressed sadness over the way democracy is practiced in Nigeria, describing it as crazy. He urges Nigerians to continue praying for the development of the nation.
Honestly, one feels either gratified, that Nigeria made me what I am, and I must not do anything to create a problem for it, but to do whatever we can with your support as well to get Nigeria going. And this is why I pray our political parties and politics in Nigeria should really be thinking more of well-being of Nigeria, peace of Nigeria, peace within their own area, community, etc. And all that is happening in various states, today, if I make you feel sad, that we say democracy, but it looking as though it is going crazy, not democracy, but democracy. That is what is happening in Nigeria. But however, let us not give up praying and also making sure you believe.
Speaking of the nation, the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations has launched a Nigeria Reputation Management Group, a platform it hopes to use to promote the country's positive image nationally and globally. The president of the institute, Mr. Ike Neliaku, notes that the initiative will strive to project Nigeria's image globally, notwithstanding existing challenges. The event, which was chaired by the chairman Channels Media Group, Mr. John Momo, attracted top government officials, including 3 former ministers of information, the current Minister of Information and National Orientation, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
We are here to unveil what will become Nigeria's biggest possible transformation pillar and driver, the reputation project. The reputation of our country needs some help. Today's event is NIPR's robust response to the call.
Nigeria's reputation, again I repeat, needs a radical transformation. And I'm not referring to our standing on international rankings. Instead, I'm talking about the reputation that is built on the integrity of our institutions, the transparency of our leadership, and the well-being of our people. So today I offer a charge. First, to our politicians and leaders. The mandate that you politicians hold is a sacred trust, not a personal opportunity for enrichment. Ethical leadership must become the standard, not the exception. And to the citizens, I urge you to remember that the future of our country lies not only in the hands of our leaders, but in our own actions. We cannot demand integrity from others if we do not hold ourselves accountable.
We must find a way of striking a true balance between, especially for the media, reporting accurately, objectively, and also being patriotic about your country.
Well, let's talk about taxes now. The chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Zach Adedeji, is allaying fears of a possible introduction of new taxes through the proposed tax reform laws. Mr. Adedeji, who made this known when he appeared before the Senate Committee on Finance, assured Nigerians that the tax reform laws will not entail introduction of new taxes or increase already existing ones. At the interactive session aimed at briefing the committee in the National Assembly of plans of the service in implementing tax reforms, the FIR's boss notes that the reforms essentially seek to increase simplicity, efficiency of tax administration, and obliterate multiplicity of taxes without the intention of merging any agency.
Nearly 2 weeks after President Bola Tinubu submitted 4 tax reform bills to the National Assembly.
Well, let's tell you that the central bank governor has also been speaking about Nigeria's economy. Mr. Olaimi Cardoso is projecting Nigeria's gross domestic product growth rate at of 3.2% for 2024 and 3.3% for the next year. He was speaking as well during an interactive session with the House of Representatives Committee on Banking Regulations. He also reiterated the government's plan for the realization of a $1 trillion economy by 2030.
Our focus has been on how to stabilize the economy, restore investor confidence in financial markets, and provide a seamless path to sustainable growth. Projections indicate a growth rate of 3.2% and 3.3% for 2024 and 2025 respectively. Although positive, these estimates remain below historical averages, suggesting moderate rather than robust expansion. In the second quarter of 2024, the economy grew by 3.19%, up from 2.51% in the corresponding period of last year.
On the foreign scene, the United States has written to Israel, giving it 30 days to boost humanitarian and aid access in Gaza or risk having some U.S. military assistance cut off. The letter sent amounts to the strongest known written warning from the U.S. to its ally and comes amid a new Israeli offensive in northern Gaza that has reportedly caused a large number of civilian casualties. It says the U.S. has deep concerns about the deteriorating humanitarian situation, adding that Israel denied or impeded nearly 90% of humanitarian movement between the north and south last month. Well, those are the major stories at this hour. But what have you been saying about these stories? Bukola joins me now as we walk through your comments on the show. Bukola, what you got for us?
Dr. Kadi, it's an interesting one we have today. And I'd like to start by asking you, Kadi, at any time
the
in
answer
the
is
past,
yes.
Yeah, thank you for being on guard. At any time in the past when you observed a consistent failure in a system, an infrastructure, did you summon the courage to sue your subnational?
Okay, the answer is not yes. Not for lack of courage, really, and it depends on what service you're talking about. But have I taken action? Absolutely. Well, not court action, though. But yes, I have taken action.
Well, a 15-year-old is suing an agency and it's covered in trends this morning. We'll get to that point, but we're starting first of all with the national grid collapse, and Nigerians are saying quite a lot about that. And Ajibare Talks is the first user this morning, and Ajibare says, we need urgent reforms and a long-term strategy to stabilize the national grid and provide reliable power for all Nigerians. Hashtag power crisis.
And this is coming backdrop of that statement we put to you earlier on. The grid collapsed on Monday. They tried to restore it, and it collapsed again in that sense on Tuesday, even though they always call it disturbance and all of that. So that's what a lot of people are thinking. You went down on Monday, they tried to bring you up, you went down again on Tuesday. And Chief Obo Francis has the next comment saying the recent outage is in lieu of inability of Disco to afford power from Genco due to customers not paying bills. Disco will ration the little they can afford, leaving Gencos with excess power. By 2025, there won't be outages no more in Nigeria. So I imagine that this is someone who understands the sector. So this is load rejection, and it was talked about. This is also responsible sometimes for, well, the grid collapse, let's use that term. So is this what's happening right now? Perhaps you have an inside source, but again, we've not heard the TCN say this is what caused it. Just said we had a partial disturbance. But this is important source to note as well.
And at this point, we should also call out MDAs and some nationals that are owing the Discos. If Discos are unable to meet their obligations to Gencos, then they'll be unable to lift power, as this user is telling us.
Because we are not owing, right, Bukola?
We're not owing.
We pay our bills, so we are not part of these people. So the MDAs and the other people.
I mean, you know, at one point, reports said that even the National Assembly was owing Discos. So, hey, it goes without saying that, you know, all MDAs must meet and governments must meet their responsibilities towards the Discos.
Oh, yes. Wisdom is next, saying that the price of everything will go up, or has been going up daily, and the only thing that is coming down is our national grid again. Okay, thanks.
Well, we heard that yesterday. It's coming back again today. Yeah, we get you. Interesting one. And Chris Michael is the next user, and he says, national grid don't tire to stand on the mandate. I beg, make on I give them glucose or energy booster. Well, it's just to say that even the national grid is fatigued and it needs some form of energy booster. However, if it is glucose, we'll leave that to the engineers to answer. Well, so he concludes by saying, because the journey is still long.
It's always interesting when you try to, translate pidgin to English. It doesn't quite work. Pidgin is pidgin. Let's move on to that 15-year-old that Bukola talked about, who is suing the Federal Ministry of Education, JAMB, and the NUC, that's the National Universities Commission, over the government's policy that says below 18 years cannot enter or gain admission into university. So Odogu says this is a welcome development. That's how this user starts. And goes on to say, and we shouldn't be scared of exploring the legal option, right? I think a lot of people are actually cheering this young lady and saying, way to go. You're 15 years old, but hey, you're leading the way on this one. So we'll see how this one plays out.
Well, we'll talk about the odds and the ends to that, but let's take this next user who says, honestly, I don't think it is necessary to limit the pace. The pace, I believe he meant to say, the pace of any child educationally, of if he or she passes the exams, why not let him proceed? Well, time and again, particularly if you're a parent and you happen to engage with the authorities at your child's school, there is that admonition that the children should be allowed to mature and there should be no hurry, to get them into secondary school at age 10. I mean, we find that these days, secondary school starters, commence at age 9. And for school managers, it's quite worrisome. And sometimes they're unable to cope with what seems to be more challenging environment in the secondary school rather than in the primary environment, particularly if they are shipped off to boarding schools, just as they start off. So these are some of the factors also that parents and other school authorities should consider or may be considering that may have led to this policy.
Definitely. What I just want to say is this. I think we should get to that point where our decisions are guided by data largely, not just, 18-year-olds should be the ones getting into school, not 16-year-old. What data backs it? It could be that here in Nigeria, actually, people mature earlier than that 18-year adult age. So it's important to just have data. Let us see the data you're looking at for those who are for and against it, that we can make informed decision. But let's move on to the conversation around taxation. Oh yes, two things they say are very sure in life: death and taxes. But it looks like one is even getting surer now, particularly in Nigeria, because we understand that wealthy Nigerians earning 100 million naira and above monthly will face a 25% personal income tax rate if a new tax bill is passed by the National Assembly. Well, the FIRS boss has said, no, take it easy. We're not trying to increase taxes. What we're just trying to do is make it simpler and make it more efficient. But trust Nigerians, they heard that, they went, Wale Adeleke is first saying, is taxation the only way this government knows to generate income? 100 million naira sounds like a lot on paper, but its value has reduced drastically, and you can't even count someone with 100 million naira as wealthy again.
Right.
Wait, really?
Well, it's because of the diminishing value of the naira. And even if you had 100 million naira in your account now, if care is not taken in the next 1 year, what will be the value of the 100 million naira? That's not to say that I don't want 100 million naira in my account.
Anybody with 100?
They can show some compassion and just send me a certain percentage of that amount.
Anybody with 100 million naira, right? Not just in assets, is wealthy. Okay, we need to be clear on this. Is wealthy, but again, I understand where people are coming from. But let's stay one place. This is wealth, 100 million naira. Yes, the value is diminished, but 100 million naira is still a lot of money.
Yeah, I quite agree. So let's go to the next user who says, that's Daniel Oladoja, who says, give you 25 million naira for what exactly? Power that is not stable, roads that are not motorable, hospitals that are non-existent, security that is shambolic, water that does not exist. What exactly are you charging 25% for? And that goes to the point about, the viability of the taxes that Nigerians are paying in the first place. Where is the evidence that this tax are judiciously used such that they can be encouraged, to willingly pay taxes? And for those who happen to evade taxes, so that they can be more responsible when there is evidence on ground that taxes are being paid.
So finally, let's tell you yet again that the FIRS boss has allayed fears of possible introduction of new taxes through the proposed tax reform laws. But this, just Nigerians reacting to the report they heard about, it's certain 25%. But the FIRS boss, before Nigerians, that's the National Assembly, said, no need to worry. You're about to say hello for Kabale, right? No need to worry.
And just to add also, Kadi, that the chairperson of the Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms has also said that there will be a reduction on corporate taxes.
Right.
But that, it's not yet uhuru. It's a long journey to overcoming the bureaucratic hurdles and bottlenecks that will get the economy to that state where corporate tax will be reduced.
But we'll stay vigilant. They say eternal vigilance is the price of freedom. So when we see something, we'll say something. We'll take a moment now on the show, and when we return, we're starting off with the very first conversation. We all love this thing, so this is a conversation you want to stay right here for in a moment. Join us again. I mean, we all love it. Sometimes we hate to admit that we love it, but hey, we all need food one way or the other. And it's World Food Day. So what better point to speak about World Food Day than on a breakfast show? And this morning, we're getting right into that conversation. As I said earlier on, we all love to love food, particularly because it ensures sustenance. It fuels what we want to do. Either you're working, you're schooling, you're doing business, you need food. But what is this celebration all about this time around, and how does it affect you and I? Well, we have joining us on the show two gentlemen. Mr. Michael Subola is a food system activist and founder. Lagos Food Bank is right here with us in our Lagos studio, as well as the Commissioner for Agriculture, Kaduna State, Mr. Murtala Dabo, joins us via Zoom. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm so delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
I don't know, is it appropriate to say Happy World Food Day?
Oh, yes. In everything, there's still cause for celebration. And yeah, we have to keep the hope alive.
Fantastic.
Very well.
But let's get right into it.
Yes.
First, I'm curious, food system activist. So first I'm hearing that you're a food system activist, but maybe you can speak to that, when you responded to my question. But I want us to get to the heart of this. The world is commemorating Food Day, and the theme is that food is a human right, right to food. So we heard about right to life, right to, assemble, freedom of speech and all of that. But I'm sure a lot of people never really thought that food is actually a human right, because it's not something that you can just readily pick. You have to pay for it, you have to work for it, particularly now that food is expensive. So what is the thinking first behind the theme, food is a human right? Oh
yes, so very good question. The thing is that for as far as food is concerned, it's one of the most basic requirements to live, to be alive, and without food, we are of course can't do anything. Our system can't function. So the most important thing we should bear in mind in this regard is that to what extent do we have access to this food, right? In as much as we don't expect to pick it up free of charge, right? But there should be an enabling environment for that access to the food, right? So our legal framework, of course, doesn't make this a legal right. Of course, it's, by our constitution, is there, but it's not justiciable. But we have right to life, section 33 of our constitution, right? And how can you be alive without having access to what will keep you alive? So, and if you want to look at the intentionality of other countries who have also had challenges with food insecurity in the past, like countries like India, Brazil, Bolivia, several countries, they've become so intentional about how do they want to make a statement about their intention around making food accessible to people. So instead of it being a moral obligation or what is in the constitution that is not justiciable, they took steps to amend their constitution, right, to make food a right, a human right. Like people have rights to this, like you can actually enforce such rights. And we start with India. Just recently, of course, they amended their laws, and they of course legislated on National Food Security Act that made food accessible to people, at least more than 2/3 of their people, I think, in terms of grains and I can mention several other countries. Mexico, it's in their laws, their legal, as against just signing on to some international treaties that, of course, that we are not able to ratify back home. But the point I'm trying to make here is that how we want to show intentionality that we also have an obligation as a government is, first of all, right, let us take that step, that we're also part of this, right? Hold us accountable. When you are held accountable, you also want to take action. But when you know that whatever it is, like, people might not be able to hold you to it, right? It doesn't also make you stand on your toes to make this,
interesting point there. And let me go to Mr. Dabo, because he is in government, right? And government is meant to ensure that the rights of people are protected, whether it's right to life, right to food, or otherwise. So, Mr. Dabo, going by the, the statistics of, poverty, those who are not able to afford, a basic meal, those who are hungry in the country, then you begin to wonder, just how much of this right is being trampled upon right now. There is a lot of human rights violation ongoing. So I want you to speak from the side of government, at least your government. Do you recognize food as a human right?
Well, let me start by congratulating everyone. I would say Happy World Food Day. From the theme of today's World Food Day, it's a right to food and better future. And I will tell you that our government in Kaduna has been deliberate right from the get-go. One of the 8 pillars sustained agenda of Governor Obatani's government is agriculture. And what is it meant to achieve? Food security, of course. Without food security, there won't be any, you know what, you just said it. Without food, you can't even live. You won't be alive. So it's a deliberate policy of government to see that it supports the productivity of food. That is the agricultural development. Nigeria, as you know, is a country of over 200 million people. So it's very key that we get food sufficiency. It's a very, very, very key thing. And good enough, Kaduna, being an agrarian state, agriculture contributes 43% to the state's GDP. And we're the leading producers of maize, ginger, and tomatoes. So as a policy, the governor just signed on agricultural development and nutrition strategy. It's not even enough for us to have enough food, but it has to be nutritious. So that it's the end thing now. You all are aware of the hunger. The UN Secretary General just said it, that over 733 million people are facing hunger today as a result of a lot of calamities, wars, some of them natural disasters like climate change and all that. Some of the man-made disasters are like the Gaza and the Sudan crisis. So it is a key thing that we really get deliberate in addressing the food security issue. We all know of the flood that has, that we are now suffering in the country. We've had very good rains, but then the flood is now coming to eat up the productivity that we have produced. So I will tell you, as a government, we are deliberate. We are supporting the farmers to improve productivity. It's only then we'll have enough food to feed. The smallholder farmers that are largely considered our farmers and in the state, the government, we've supported them with quality seeds. Over 69,000 of them were provided with good seeds, mechanization, in order to improve productivity. We've given them power tillers. We're working on mechanization, and it's not enough for them to even produce the food. Preservation is another thing. For service losses that we suffer, sometimes we may produce so much food, but as a result of lack of access roads, a lot of it gets wasted. The government is deliberate in building a lot of rural roads that links farmers to the markets, and then warehousing too. As a state
Mr. Dabo, let me come in there now.
Yeah.
So, pardon me if I'm coming there now. If you're putting in all of these efforts, might I ask if Kaduna is food secure? And food secure being, can Kaduna afford to feed itself for the next 5 years without importation of food, either from neighboring countries in the north or even from neighboring states? Can you confidently say that Kaduna State is food secure?
I will tell you confidently that Kaduna State is food secure because we produce close to 20% of the maize production of this country right now. And maize is a staple, both in animal feed and the normal food and most of the processing companies. Soybeans were number 2. So to say we will be food secure for 5 years is what I cannot commit to. But what I know is that we're deliberately working on ramping up production. We have over 4 million hectares of land and arable. 2.9 million of it is under cultivation, and we're ramping up, attracting private sector, large-scale farmers to come in so that we produce a lot more for the country. typically, Harvest Plus, they have been supporting a lot of production, like, okay, the nutrition security that I was talking about. We need to get biofortified seeds such that you don't only need to have enough food, but it should be nutritious. So it's another way of fighting malnutrition. We're suffering from stunted growth of our children, malnutrition of even the lactating mothers and the children themselves. So I tell you, go to the grains market in Giwa, go to Saminaka, go to rice in Kauru, soybeans in Kaura. Everywhere, I tell you, right now harvest season is coming. And as I was saying, we're working on warehousing because it's not enough for you to just produce. You need to keep it safe. You need to preserve it so that your farmers will have good prices for their produce.
All right,
so
we may just...
in this, we're partnering with agro-logistics company to manage our warehouses so that we'll provide this, which will help. Okay?
So we may just need to fact check a lot of the things that you have said because...
you are talking?
Yes. Pardon me, may I come in there now? We may just need to fact check some of the things that you have said as far as Kaduna being insecure. And that would go to the challenge of food preservation. How many silos are there for farmers to access in Kaduna State such that, there's food security beyond this time to many years down the line. Also, affordability is another aspect of the food security question that I have posed to you. But let me come to the studio now to you, sir. The business magnate claimed just days ago, a few weeks ago, that Nigeria is one of the food insecure countries of the world. And, some diligent pressmen have gone to fact check to find out that indeed Nigeria is number 2 on the list of countries, 59 countries that are food insecure. I wonder if we have any business in the country being food insecure, considering arable land. If you drop something on the ground in the country, before you know it, it grows. So what are we not doing right that we find ourselves on the list of these countries that are food insecure?
Basically, and I must say without prejudice to the effort of the government thus far in ensuring that we have a more food secure country, the point is, we all know this, the long-term neglect of agriculture as a major as basically just that neglect. And of course, now coming back to it, you see the Buhari administration, of course, did a whole lot in reviving agriculture. We know that massive investment in agriculture, of course, would, for any country, of course, would always guarantee, food security for any nation. Typically, we have no business being food insecure. We have all the resources. We have arable land. We have, a whole lot like that can make us, and even several other natural resources that can make us food secure. But the point is that it's intentionality, like I said, around ensuring that this is, see, the true wealth of every nation, to my mind, is in the stomach of its people. And you see, the more we prioritize agriculture, the more we prioritize social safety net programs that actually carry the most vulnerable along, goes a long way. And it is now that we are beginning to now see that the impact is becoming so obvious, like this level of food insecurity we are now seeing, while some other countries like Brazil is like the size of Nigeria, and they've been intentional about some of these things. Like, let's play our part, let's see what we can do. If we make this step in making this issue of food security a legal issue, like it's something that we can be held accountable for, we'll go all the way to but if we won't be, we'll just pay lip service to it, to like a more like something that we are not really so so intentional about. Like I said, the government is doing a whole lot. We all have our roles to play. The subnationals also have their roles to play in ensuring that their states become more food secure. Kudos to the Lagos state government in what they are doing as well in ensuring food security, the ONJECO, and several other initiatives the Lagos state government has as well. If other states like this are more intentional, Lagos being the fact that it's not such an agrarian, a state like that, produces just about 3% or 4% of its food need, right? But the fact that at least they are at the forefront of ensuring that there's food security goes a long way. And more so, we just have to be more intentional. But this step ought to have been taken long before now, but it's not too late, right? It's that level of intentionality that we need, and still continuous investment in agriculture. The Anchor Borrowers Program, is currently on hold, probably not effective as it was. It might probably be revisited, and several other initiatives. And also, we also need to hold ourselves accountable as well. We individuals, the farmers, and corruption as well. A whole lot. The government might have good intentions, but trickling it down and implementing it, and you realize that doesn't get to the grassroots of people that need it. But we all have that role to play, and that's why on our own part as an organization, we are looking at the most vulnerable population, and we are saying, what can we do in our own respect as a citizen? Like, not saying the government should do everything, right? What can we do to carry our most vulnerable along? And we targeted very senior citizens and all of that, and we say, you know what, food banks work in other climes as a social safety net program, right? Let us do something in that regard, and that's what we're doing.
It's quite interesting, that model, and I think you're trying to point to the fact that government has its role to play, which will be major on, or at least will major on today, because government sets the tone, but then other players can come in to sort of fill in the blanks of the spaces of sorts. So, but I want us to speak to the realities on ground right now, and how well we're able to get out of it, and how soon enough. We were just talking about the price of eggs, for example, and what it's projected to be. So that's meant to be at least one of the basic sources of protein. Right? Animal protein is quite expensive, so people would try to augment with egg, try to eat beans as well and get some protein from it. I know there's been a controversy around how much protein is in beans, but there's protein in it nonetheless. So these sources of protein are expensive. Beans is so expensive right now, you wonder what is going on. So we have a present challenge. We can talk about how food is a human right and all of that, but people will still want to go to market and test that. So clearly, that is where we're at right now. And I want us to begin to talk about solutions. For example, I was looking through the activities of the Ministry of Agriculture, particularly for this day and in the past few months. And some will say they are not feeling the effect of the agriculture ministry. That is like the most important ministry. Food is a political issue. If there's anything that should get a lot of attention, it is food. Because once you've sorted the issue of food, you are sure that your citizens at least will be happy with you. So what has been missing for you in the government's activities at trying to reduce the price of food? Because we've been at this for a while right now. So what is that one thing that I'll go to Mr. Dabo quickly?
You see, when it comes to reduction of the price of food, I would say that it's something that I wouldn't like. How do I put this now? There are several players, there are several activities, there are several factors that are responsible for for all of this. A lot of several economic issues, and we are looking at traders, farmers who probably have used high cost of feeds, animal feeds, and the rest of it to maybe put their chickens together and everything, and then trickles down to the price of eggs. But a lot of factors are responsible for high cost of living, high cost of food inflation, and the rest of it. Right? In terms of what is missing, it's a multi-dimensional issues, like I said, and I would say the government is trying their best. But issues of security are to be addressed, where farmers pay ransom to access, harvest or cultivate their farms, farmers being killed. A lot of factors are responsible for this, right? And if we have more if there's enough food, the prices will crash, right? And that is what the government is also doing, to, of course, remove the whole importation duties and everything. And some of these things might begin. I don't want to sit here and hold brief for the government because I'm not in the government. I'm private sector, I'm non-profit and the rest of it, right? But the most important thing I think we should bear in mind here is that just like the World Bank leader, said just a few days ago, like, what we are doing currently might not sit well with a lot of people. Like, it's what the government is doing, might not sit well with a lot of people. But if we stay put on them, we will see results, right, in the next few years.
Interesting.
Right, but not many people want to experience that.
That statement came across to a lot of people as, what, are we going to endure this for that long? And that's why it's important for people to be able to see that government is actually working and it's yielding results. Not you're working, and they're not seeing results. Obviously, they'll say what you're doing is not working, so change the formula. So let me go to Mr. Dabo, because Kaduna plays a pivotal role when it comes to agriculture in the country. For example, Kaduna is the biggest producer of maize in the country, and that is important when it comes to poultry. In fact, the major reason for the high price of eggs is the fact that the feeds are expensive. And I've heard poultry farmers saying, we need this maize one way or the other. If you're going to import it, bring it in. If we're going to get it from somewhere, but just get us the maize. So what exactly is going on in Kaduna State with maize production that we're not able to supply our poultry farmers well enough so the price of eggs can come down?
Well, the thing is, we have to support productivity, and majority of our farmers are smallholder farmers. And you'll see the massive support from the state government this year. 15,000 metric tons of fertilizer, giving more access to the input. Cost of input is prohibitive. A bag of fertilizer now goes for over 40,000, 43, sometimes even up to 46,000. So the government was so deliberate this year that we have distributed 500 trailers of fertilizer. 120,000 of our smallholder farmers benefited from 2 bags each. So this is meant to ramp up production. And harvest is beginning already. And I can assure you, it's going to improve greatly. And provided there is supply into the market, prices will come down. And the fact that we subsidize inputs, we've given them power tillers, a lot of this for mechanization. We've given them improved seeds. We've given them fertilizer free. All this is meant to bring down the cost of production. And ultimately, I believe we're beginning to see the harvest. In the next 1 month, when we're fully into it, prices will come down definitely. And even in our budget for this year, that's what we call,
Okay, we're hoping to get what you call in your budget this year, but we'll reconnect.
All
right, Mr. Dabo, pardon me.
We'll be releasing it into the market.
Just a moment. We lost that bit. What you were talking about the budget of your state. There's something you call, and then the connection just went off. So if you could just repeat that bit.
It's like a provision we make, like grains buffer stock. So what we do is on harvest now, we mop up, we buy a large quantity to keep, such that as we move down the year, when the supply is drying up, the government will be gradually releasing it to the market to moderate prices. And I think this will also is a good strategy to address food security issue. And you said, you spoke of poultry. You are aware that Olam is in Kaduna, and the hatchery that provides all of the northern states with day-old chicks and feeds. If you go to the factory site, you'll be shocked at the number of trailers of maize that comes every day from our villages. So productivity is improving greatly because the government is deliberately supporting farmers with inputs. Once they have access to these expensive inputs, it will bring down the production cost, and ultimately prices too will be moderated. And I think it's something that we are on the right track on.
Commissioner, I was talking earlier about affordability, which is a component of food security. And the report released by the NBS just this month states that cost of a healthy diet now is 1,200 Naira plus. And, as you go further down in the country, it may reduce just by a very minute and insignificant percentage. To what extent can, the Kaduna State government guarantee that there is, the opportunity for particularly the young ones who need, a balanced diet, have food affordability, are able to afford a nutritious diet in public schools especially?
Yes, I will tell you this confidently that in the next 1-2 months, you see prices will come down because the production was quite huge this year. So the support came handy. And the federal government was recommended for the support it gave all states by way of fertilizers that are free. So it at least subsidized the input to some level. And that must be sustained. And I will also tell you that, down the year when prices go up, and then you spoke of nutrition, Kaduna, we're housing more than about 50% of the seed companies in Nigeria. So the biofortified seeds are being gotten mostly from Kaduna. It's Kaduna farmers that are doing it for Harvest Plus. So these are partners that are working on the food systems in the country. Agra, all the partners too are supporting. And I believe we're on the right track by supporting these farmers with mechanization. And another area is, our over-reliance on rain-fed agriculture. And, it is key that we ramp up our irrigation facilities such that we'll be doing all year-round farming. Because as we have more supplies into the market, prices will definitely moderate.
Well,
so we're working very aggressively.
Just quickly,
irrigation infrastructure.
Just to inform you that in spite of what you say about you having a lot of maize supply, the price of a crate of egg is still 5,000 plus in Kaduna State.
Actually, 6,000 naira now. Yeah.
So, has that really changed much? Even in Kaduna, talk more of areas outside Kaduna.
I will challenge you. What is a bag of maize was going for as high as 100,000 2 months ago. But now, the millers are getting it at even 50,000 because new maize is coming in.
So, Mr. Dabo, the point here is this: people buy eggs. People do not buy the maize. That is for those who rear the chickens and then lay the eggs to sell. People, that's the end user, still buys a crate of egg for 5,000 plus, almost 6,000 in Kaduna. I'm just trying to say that these policies are not yielding results. Instead of the prices going down, they are going up. That's the point I'm trying to make. Bukola, I know you want to comment.
I want to assure you that these prices will moderate. I attended the World Egg Day last week, and I challenged the feed millers that look, you complain of cost of input, as in the raw materials. Maize is now coming out at a much cheaper price. Why are you not reducing prices? They increased the prices of the feed almost per week basis for a very long time. Now that the raw materials are coming at a much cheaper rate, it should reflect in the cost. Well, perhaps the poultry farmers, when the cost of feed comes down, eggs too should come down. What we need to do is to really ramp up production.
And you've answered it yourself, perhaps it also speaks to the measure of production of maize. We're talking about feeding more than 200 million people, yes, not just farmers in Kaduna. And, that also goes to what measure of farming is taking place in Kaduna. Is it activity or productivity, because of the challenge of insecurity as well? But if we have time, we'll explore that. Let's quickly make progress and talk about the approach itself. Some have said, look, in a country where there is a Land Use Act and it's the subnationals that are in charge of the land, why do you have a federal Ministry of Agriculture superintending over agriculture? So is that also a challenge? Should the resources, the majority of the resources deployed to the Ministry of Agriculture, go down to the states such that there can be increased productivity? Or do states have no excuse at all not to be sufficient in food production such that exportation can be done throughout the country rather than outside the country?
In terms of resource allocation, to the Ministry of Agriculture and how it probably trickles down to the states, I believe that each subnational should take responsibility for the food security of their states, and be at the forefront of this. In as much as collaboration is still required for there are some, every state have their strengths and their weakness in terms of food production, but as far as the resource is concerned, like how, what is allocated to the Ministry of Agriculture, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, and that of the states, I might not be able to say much about that because I really don't know much. But what I know is that if each state become more intentional about what they can do to make their own state more food secure, and also borrow from the ideas of what other states are doing.
Just basically learn from others.
Learn from other states. Okay. There would be some form of improvement.
Fantastic.
Rather than looking at the center.
So, quick one. How much is the price? How much is the crate of egg rather at the food bank? Is it 6,000 as well?
So I think there's a misconception.
Tell us about it quickly. We have 30 seconds to go.
The food bank is a non-profit and it's private driven, and it provides food to vulnerable populations free of charge. We don't sell. It's a model I think we might want to explore some other day or some other time. But it is like a social safety net, non-profit NGO that just caters to the food needs of people, training them on how to feed themselves, and also providing temporary relief for them.
Interesting. Basically. He said for the vulnerable people. So salary earners,
no, they
are not
vulnerable.
You're not sure. But it's great to hear that. I think it would be good to have this replicated across board, and then see funding as well, because there are well-meaning people who just want to be a part of it. They are maybe not able to give money to people individually, but they can support. So I think it's a good time to show compassion as we started off on the show this morning. Mr. Michael Sumbola, food system activist and founder of Lagos Food Bank. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
As well as Mr. Murtala Dabo, Commissioner for Agriculture, Kaduna State. Well, said to be the food hub of Nigeria. Thank you as well, and wish you the very best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we're keeping our eyes on other states, ensuring that we will do the right thing when it comes to agriculture and food, because food is a human right. But we'll go to break now. When we return, I will talk about the workforce. After we've talked about the food, let's talk about the productivity. That's in a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the program. So now we exit productivity in the agriculture sector, following the celebration of the World Food Day, to productivity of the workforce today. There is a fair consensus that the future of Nigeria's development is anchored on, prioritizing human capital development. So how do we motivate the workforce amid, the very real economic challenges? So joining us on the program this morning to look at this is Malam Ladan Gobir. He is the president, CIPM, that's the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much for joining us, and good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning, Bukola. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's good to have you. I've set the tone already for the first salvo, which would be the very obvious challenges that we have now. And just to put it in proper context, we were dealing with continuing increase in the pump price of petrol, which has also seen diminishing incomes because of the value of the currency. And coupled with that, there's so many bills that, a typical average member of the workforce has to, deal with. And there are reports, of course, that we're spending 70% of income on food. So where is the income, that will go to food amid so many other competing bills? How does an average member of the workforce stay motivated amid these challenges?
Okay, thank you very much, Bukola. First, we're talking about human capital development. Human capital development is the engine of growth and development, of course, for any country. Without investment in people, sustainable progress, of course, cannot be achieved by any country at all. So the human capital development, of course, is very vital for economic prosperity in any country, social stability, and of course, to ensure global competitiveness. HCD, as we call it, of course, in HR, involves, of course, enhancing the skills, the knowledge, and the productivity of the workforce. All of this, of course, directly contribute to socio-economic development. Now, to your question, how do we then, of course, enhance the productivity, of the workforce? I think basically for us in Nigeria, with a population that is said to be about 220 million, at least as at the 2023 estimates, being the largest, of course, population that we have in Africa. Some of the challenges that we have had to deal with around human capital development, of course, are challenges around unemployment, skills mismatch, education deficit, and the fact that our global ranking today in the Human Capital Index, of course, sits at 150 out of about 157 countries. So what do we need to do, to ensure that at least the workforce and our people remain productive? We think that first we must continue to build capacity. Now, in building capacity, we must ensure, of course, that the skills that are being built, are such that helps either in the public or private sector, of course, to engender growth, in the economy, and that the services, of course, that are provided are such that enables growth, in the economy. Now, how do we intend to do this, or how must we continue to do this? We must continue, of course, to look at youth employment and skills training. And we must ensure that at all times we prioritize, because we are a nation that has a youth unemployment index of about 42.5%. Now, the unemployment index, of course, following the NBS statistics, about 33.3%. Youth unemployment alone, of course, constitutes 42.5% of that. So we must continue to invest, of course, in growing youth employment and, of course, in skills training for our youth. Now, the other thing that we must also do is to ensure that the right kind of environment is created, for workers to thrive.
Right.
And we can do this not only by providing training opportunities for workers, whether in the public or private sector, but by ensuring, of course, like we always say, that we pay the right kind of wage for the right kind of work that is done. We now have a minimum wage that is said to be 70,000 naira. Soon after, of course, that minimum wage was announced, the prices of PMS have gone up, by several percentum, and if you look at the increase that we had in terms of the minimum wage,
right,
from 30,000 to 70,000, which is a little over 100%, compared to the kind of increases that we have had, of course, for PMS alone, not even talking about the price, the price of other products in the market, other commodities that workers have to access. You will find that there is no correlation at all between this. So then you begin to wonder, how does someone who is on the minimum wage, how is he able, for example, to maintain a family of 4 or a family of 6, provide for them food on a daily basis, pay school fees for their children, pay house rent for whatever part, in whatever part of the country, of course, it is that they live.
Well,
now, for those who are outside,
right,
either the organized private sector or in government, those who, of course, are working outside the organized work environment.
Right.
Those who have to farm, those who have to do petty trading. You also look at what comes to them at the end of the day or at the end of the month. What is their total earnings compared to what they have to pay for services, that the government provides, or for services, of course, that even others provide.
Let me come in here.
People have to pay taxes.
Right.
So we must continue to have these conversations,
Indeed.
Around what would be a good or a take-home pay for anyone, of course, who works in an organized work environment,
right,
or those who even work in the private sector.
I remember when last
a challenge around the fact that, of course, that what people earn today can no longer take them home.
And I remember last time we had you on the show about 4 months ago, and we talked about minimum wage. At that time, the negotiation was still ongoing, so people were thinking, will it be 150,000? And then, Labour came out of that meeting with the president and said, well, the president said, you have to choose one. Either prices of, petrol keeps going up, and then we give you the 150, or we give you the 70 plus, and the price stays the same. Clearly, that hasn't happened. If anything, the price of petrol has gone up at least 2 times since then, and we're doing plus 1,000 naira. But here's a point I'm trying to make. When people are stuck in the survival part, there's a Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So people are trying to survive, the physiological needs. They can't skip all the way to the esteem point, which is the training that you talk about, because they're trying to survive. So they're not thinking about training, esteem, or self-actualization. They're just basically trying to feed, get home with their salary. So we find ourselves in a very interesting situation. People would rather pay premium to money, wages. Give me money first. Don't spend that money on training. Spend that money in paying my salary. But then we still need to get our workforce productive, more efficient, in line with the current trends. So really, how difficult is this decision for employers and employees themselves who have to spend either their funds or time in training themselves sometimes?
Okay, thank you, Kayode. You see, the challenge really, I think, is with the fact that even for employers, not many are able to pay employees as much as they would even desire to pay. And this is because for employers who also have to, for example, import raw materials because they are not available in the country, pay so much for diesel, pay so much in terms of the multiple taxes that they have to deal with, harvest water, which they have to use because these facilities are not available. All of these, of course, translates, into the cost of production for the businesses. At the end of the day, it is not the whole gamut of the total cost of production that the businesses are able to transfer, to the end users. Of course, but they do transfer, and that's why the cost of products, keep going up. As soon as you have a PMS cost, of course, reviewed, businesses, of course, also go back to the drawing board to look what comes, what do we need, to put into producing what we produce. Now, human capital, human resource, is also a factor, of production, perhaps the most important, but it is the least, beneficiary of increases that you get. For example, an employer who requires to import raw materials to continue production, no matter what the cost is, they still go on to import these materials. If customs increases custom fees, employers will still go ahead and pay. But employers are unable, to increase wages, of employees to meet the kind of increases that we're seeing, for example, in PMS cost or in other factors of production. So for both the employer and the employee, it's like a catch-22 situation. The employer, of course, expects to be paid very well by the employer. A fair day's pay, we say, for a fair day's work. The employer also, quite a number of employers desire to pay, their employees very well. But the challenge oftentimes, of course, with them is the fact that, their market sizes are also shrinking, and because, like Bukola said earlier on, it's only when an employee is fed very well and is able to provide for his or her family, pay school fees, pay house rent, pay transportation costs, before they begin to think, about what other needs, they have to meet. First, they try to meet their basic needs. So people are no longer even thinking about, okay, we have to go on vacations, we have to go on holiday. Like we all know and like we all say, we no longer have a middle class, even in Nigeria. So to the point, around what should employers be doing or what can employees also do? The truth is that, like we always say, employers can only pay what they can afford to pay. The concern is usually around affordability. No employer wants to pay wages only to end up after 3, 4, 6 months to go and close shops. And I think employees also understand that, well, things are very bad, but we must continue to ensure that our businesses survive so that at least we have we have some work to do. And at the end of the day, we also get paid at least our wages at the end of the day.
And as you have rightly said, pardon me there, it sure looks like a choice between the rock and the hard place, the competing needs. But let's look at what governments and the private sector, maybe more of governments, are supposed to be doing. I'm looking at a report by Budget now, and it says that 11 states spent more on overhead costs than on capital expenditure. And this is evidence-based, but we would think that, the subnationals are spending more on infrastructure and on human capital development, the workforce now in this case. So if this is the case, we don't know the data for the more recent years now, but if this is the case, why is this not reflecting in an improvement in the well-being and capacity of the workforce, as you said earlier?
Well, a lot of the subnationals, of course, like you said, are investing in infrastructure development. The argument is that we need to do this so that over time, of course, it will help improve our economic base. It will enlarge the economic base. People will have access to job opportunities, and then people will also have access, to some sort of funding. People have access to some sort of pay or wages at the end of the month. But again, whilst infrastructure development is very, very important and is very, very key, and it's something that we must all, continue to encourage what the national and the subnational has to continue to do. You cannot take your eyes away from human capital development and capacity building for human capital. Now, and we keep talking about capacity building, talent management, paying the right kind of wage for the right kind of work. Because even for the infrastructural development that we're talking about, you need people, to engineer these developments. You need people to manage this infrastructure at the end of the day, even when they have been put in place. And that's why we keep saying the most important element in all of this conversation today still remains the human capital. So whether at the national or at the subnational level, we keep making the argument that there's a need not only to grow the human capital, not only to develop human capital, not only to ensure, that your workforce are properly remunerated, they are properly paid, that we must also ensure the well-being and the welfare, of the workforce, whether in the public service or in the private sector.
And I imagine that these are the
conversations,
right? I imagine that these are the conversations that will happen today at the International Conference and Exhibition. Because a lot of people are wondering why are you in Abuja, but clearly there's a lot more that they will be getting at the conference today, which continues today, I should say. And I know that you have to run right now, but I know that there's way more at the conference. Thank you so much, Sir Bukola.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to feedback from that conference. We must anchor at this point, and thank you so much for your time. We've been speaking with Mr. Hamid Laden Gobir, President, Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, and a corporate lawyer. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
And from this point, we'll move to the softer side of things, as we say, for an exciting conversation. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Don't be scared. No need to be afraid. What we're getting into today is a conversation I've looked forward to for some time now. We have joining us on the show the brain behind what you just saw. There's a whole body of work, but let's dig right into his mind. Ladies and gentlemen, Clarence Peters is right here with us in our studio. Cinematographer, filmmaker, CEO, Capital Dream Pictures. Good morning, Clarence.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're used to saying Clarence shot it. Did you put this? Did you put it on this one?
No, I didn't.
You didn't. They didn't allow you to put it.
That's for music videos.
Exactly. And that's where I'm starting off from.
Your locks are real, by the way.
Yes, they are. Thank you. Thank you.
Should we take like 10 minutes to talk about the locks? Then we'll talk about the
Okay, after the show. I couldn't resist the urge to say that.
So, we all know you for shooting music videos, some of the biggest music videos from Africa. You shot them. And then people say that there's this new series on Netflix, Inside Life. They're like, first of all, I like the title, Inside Life. We say this a lot, and we use this a lot to describe inside life, right? And then they see Clarence Peters shot it. They didn't say it like that, but they just saw Clarence Peters.
It's Clarence Peters' Inside Life.
Exactly. And they're like, no, wait a minute. What's going on here? So I'd like you to tell us about, I know you've shot, I mean, you don't just shoot music videos, right? You've shot series in the past, but I think this is your first streaming
it is.
Project. So how is life inside streaming for you? How is the transition like?
First off, I actually started from stage and television. From when I was a kid.
Everyday People, I think.
Yes, I would like to correct that. I didn't direct the episodes. I was assistant director. I was continuity. I did a lot of things and a lot of those shows. And I was pretty young because I started working unofficially when I was 8, and I got paid for the first time as working when I was 12 as a child actor. different story. So my background actually starts from television and a little bit of stage, but mostly television documentaries before the music videos. Right? How's life in streaming? It's pretty new. I don't think I've soaked it in yet. We're still in PR runs. I think it's after all of this that I'll probably be able to sit down and be like, okay, all right. I haven't taken it in yet, so I don't think I can answer that question 100% yet. But just in terms of like the metrics and just the entire process of going around streaming, it is getting your work onto a stream platform it's not easy. It's not as straightforward as people might think it is. It's really it can be complicated, especially if you don't have the kind of relationships that you should have, especially if you are trying to create certain types of content. All right, that isn't like the normal content that people are used to. It becomes very, very complicated to work around.
And you're famed for being responsible for all of the main high-end music videos that we know, from Burna Boy to Ira Star, Davido.
I actually never shot for Ira Star. Okay, I shot once for her as a collaborator, but I've never worked. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw some of your music videos, and they come with sophistication and precision.
Thank you very much.
How did you come about your creativity and your ability to be able to interpret those music videos, that we see and many appreciate?
With music videos, it's a different thing. It really starts with brand building, right? Your primary job description is to build brands, right? Is to give them a visual interpretation that they can build on, right? The whole idea is you can hear it and then you can see it, right? It's both senses, right? If you're hearing it, then you have a lot of ideas in your head of what this person looks like, and you're trying to find balance with the visual representation that kind of cuts across everyone. So it usually always, for me, starts with the brand, and even before the music, all right, what the brand is, and then the music, and then you start to build from there. It kind of works like a tree and just comes together, especially if the stars are aligned with wherever the artist is at the time, and wherever you are also creatively at the time.
So you see the brand in the artist before you visualize the music and the interpretation of the idea of it all.
Yes, I always have to do that, and it really helped the fact that I also had artists at the time, right? So I didn't just work with the music videos. I worked from the entire pipeline of everything, from the signing of the artist to the artist development to the music. All right, and all the way down to the promotion. So if you have the clarity of that entire span, the end-to-end of everything, you think more, or you have the ability of being able to think more outside just being creative about the music videos. You can think, if I do this, then this can actually work with this and work with that for the artist. Just being able to have that entire worldview.
So if I came to you as a raw singer, you can make a brand out of me?
Yes, I can. If all the factors are right, yes, I can.
Let's just break it down. If you can pay you, just go straight.
But money. Honestly, money is just about 50% of it, right? Because you can throw all the money in the world at a brand and it still won't work.
What's the remaining 50%? Or how do you break it down?
So actually, the matrix would be different. Money is probably about 15%. Talent is about 15%.
Really?
Wait, money is 15 or 50?
15.
15, not 50 anymore.
15.
Okay.
All right. The 50% was if you're talking about music videos. If we're talking about the brand, money is about 15%.
Right.
Your talent is about 15%. 30% essentially goes to how hardworking that you are. All right, and the remaining 50% is good.
Remaining 40%. Remaining 40%.
No. 15. Oh yeah, remaining 40% would be, well, give or take.
God.
All right, it would be God, really. All right, because the stars really have to align with you. Timing is everything. Timing is really everything. Contrary to what most people believe, timing is everything.
You know, I'm very curious. Watching you speak, I mentioned earlier on that you came into the studio and the first thing you looked at, or I saw you looking at, was our cameras. Mm-hmm. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah.
You were sneaking like, what camera is this? Oh, okay, this is how the magic happens. And it just speaks to who you are, what you do.
I was fascinated with the tech. I haven't been around broadcasting in a while, and just wanted to see what the new tech was like, and it's pretty interesting.
Fantastic. So I'm very curious about your origin story. Well, about a lot of people's origin story. But I look at you, I see a geek. I don't know if you've been described as that, but your glasses make people think you're
the glasses, man. The glasses.
I know. So, but that's not who you come across as when you start speaking. So you sound like a music exec, but then you're also a creative, and there's your hair. So it talks about your Africanness, the culture, you being in tune with culture and the divine, and then you like horror movies, right? So I'm trying to piece it together.
And then you look like Bob Marley.
Oh, there you go.
No, I'm confused.
I didn't say that. No, but it's quite interesting. So I'm curious. You started acting. You said you were a child actor, right? So what's your origin story?
I was literally born into the industry. My father is a musician. His name is Shina Peters. My mother is an actress. Her name is Clarence. So I was born, unlike other people who have degrees and other things. If they say the government bans this thing now, it's clean now. It's clean. I can't do anything else. So literally everything that I am is both within the artistic side of the business and the business itself. I've been around it long enough to be able to know that everything works in silos, right? I try not to sweat the small stuff, but that kind of is kind of hard. So my origin would actually stem from, I would say, my parents, and not
genes, right?
Yeah, my genes is such a cocky way to put it. All right, but I've been around it long enough, and just being able to have a lot of uncles and aunties around, and just being able to hear a lot of conversations from when I was a kid. All right, this whole thing about Nepo baby that everybody's talking about. Everybody always talks about like the perks of it. No one ever talks about the downsides of it, and there's a lot of downsides to it.
Oh, shock us, please. What is the downside? Just one downside.
Well,
you're even thinking about it, right?
No, in my experience. In my experience, it would be, I think I was brought up, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, the industry took a lot of turns, right? And just being able things weren't as easy as people would think it would be, because the industry had to, in my opinion, had to collapse to be rebuilt, and I was around during that whole time. And then I didn't want to do this. When I was in my teens, I didn't want to have, because I didn't want to be compared to my father, my mother. It was too much pressure. I just wanted to play football, and that didn't work out. And
so I was stuck in Libya yesterday.
I would have known I was at the airport if I was stuck in Libya. All right, so yeah, I wanted to play football, and so one day, it's a funny story. A friend of mine, the suspect, David Peter, my longtime collaborator. He fired shot. His shot was notorious, and he fired a shot in my groins. And I lay down on the floor, and I told God, if He helped me recover from this, and I can count 5 players on this pitch that can play better than me, I'm not playing again. And I got up and I counted 10. I was like, nah. This is my boots, this is my shin guard, I'm not doing it again. And I went back home, I told my mom, yeah, I just want to focus on film that I've been doing for a while. She was like, thank God he's come to his senses. Right? And yeah, my mom is a huge part, because my mom supported me with everything that I've ever wanted to do. So that's the advantage to being, and being able to have parents who would say, all right, we understand it and we get it. All right? And then we would support you with whatever it is that we can, no matter how hard it is.
You know, you took it right out of my mind, if there's anything like that. I was going to ask if, being sired by two creatives sort of culminated in an explosion in you being who you are and such unique abilities that you have. By the way, did you dance to Afro Juju, Shina Peter, Sigbati Walode while you grew up?
I can't answer that question.
Why?
Because it's embarrassing.
Okay, if you would answer that,
did you get
pardon
the dance genes at least?
No. I suck at dancing.
So is that why it's embarrassing?
Yes. I suck at dancing. My friends have told me I sound like an orchestra of toads when I sing. So
you should change your friends.
But I produce, a sound engineer, and so I still kind of got it from both sides, but I didn't get the flamboyant sides. It's just unfair, man.
So you can't do.
If I did it here, all your cameras would black out.
And at least you can interpret, the dance part of it. Even if you couldn't dance. But talk to us about this. You're also known for not embracing your celebrity status. You're known to be, rather reserved, and you're more often than not behind your workstation. That's the story I've heard about you.
Who told you that? It's true, but who?
My sources to myself.
Okay. Yes, I am. Mostly because I don't. Celebrity status are for the people who are in front of the camera. They have to be that way. I stay behind the camera for a reason. I think I have. I think mostly, now that I think about it, it's probably because of the phobia from my parents and a lot of things that they had to go to by being in the limelight, and it wasn't all fun. All right, a lot of it wasn't fun. The things that they had to go through personally and in their lives, and I didn't want that for myself, and so it still freaks me out when people recognize me because all right. So but nothing is 100% good, not 100% bad. Sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't. All right. So I'm grateful to the fact that I'm somewhat recognizable sometimes. All right. But most times I just would rather not be in that space, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, it does. There's a lot we could talk about your person. Maybe you could do a movie sometime, right? But I want to get into Inside Life. By the way, you look like T-Pain.
God, don't say that, especially not now.
Right now, well, the T-Pain. I mean T-Pain. And you look. I'm sure you've heard that a lot.
I've heard I look like T-Pain. I've heard I look like Timaya. I've heard a bunch of things. All the T's. Yeah.
But really, lovely picture there. I want to talk about Inside Life. How many episodes?
6.
6 episodes. How long did it take you to shoot Inside Life?
We spoke about this before the cameras came on. Principal photography was in January. I think it was January 4th, 5th, around there, 2021. And then it was just, we shot about the first 9 minutes of it. And then in about August, we shot another 19 minutes, still in 2021. In 2022, February, we shot what's the rest. We're also principal photography that ended about the 30th or somewhere, I think about the 1st of February. Second unit started about the 15th and went on for about 10 days, and then post commenced after that.
You know why I'm asking?
Yeah.
There's a tendency for people to watch things and just imagine, we just call people, yeah, let's shoot this thing, and then 1 week it's done. Sometimes we forget the work that goes into what we see. Sometimes it's just even 10 minutes. You don't realize it probably took a year to shot that. So I just wanted them to know how long it took, because I've been looking at reviews. I don't know if you've seen reviews, but that people will say, wow, this...
I try not to look, but yeah.
Sometimes it seeps in. Some are like, this body of work is amazing. This is new. Particularly because it has that feel of horror to it, something you're not really used to in some sense. Right. Some say this body of work is great. Some say, what did I just watch? Is this a music video, a long music video? Because it's you, maybe that bias. You might want to address that. And some say, no, it's because your intelligence is not at that level for you to understand. I know you've seen all of those reviews.
The reviews that I found most interesting. First off, to buttress what you're saying, there are productions that are done in a month and are ready to roll out by the next month.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not good. It's just different productions work differently, right? And just like different filmmakers work differently. A lot of the feedback that I've gotten, especially with Story, had been things like, like you said, is people saying that the story seems disjointed and a bunch of things. It's weird because first off, there is no conclusion because we were looking at being able to shoot the season 2. And so in the world of, let's say, if you're going to follow linear progression, we shot the season 3. What should have been the season 3 of the show. So we built a world and picked a part of it that we could shoot at the time and shot that, all right? So that there is a tendency for us to be able to go back in time and explain characters in other seasons, and then we could go forward. Just give us that latitude in space. But also a lot of the questions people are asking, if you watched it again, like you paid attention, there are a lot of Easter eggs in every episode that kind of explain a lot of things, but you have to watch it. And it was done on purpose. I really wanted to be able to see how audiences would pay attention, right? But it's there.
Right there.
It's right there.
Well, you're welcome.
We're out of time.
We've explained some of those things to you. I know someone who watches movies with me. The person will be on the phone at some point and then looks up and says, "What happened?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to tell you what happened. You have to pay attention." Yeah. So I think that's a cue for everyone. Clarence Peters, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to see the kind of work that goes on in your mind, and you're able to share it to the world. I think a lot of people appreciate what they see more. Clarence Peters, celebrity, cinematographer, filmmaker, CEO of Capitol Dream Pictures. We'll have this conversation again in the coming weeks or months, and we look forward to the great work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So there you go. Just feel the essence of Clarence Peters, but we have to anchor at this point. So you might want to catch Inside Life and see what that is about. But it's been a show, right? Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kayode Okikelu.
But you're certain to catch Sunrise Daily coming up right after this time out. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
Bye.